we're back on another tour, which we appreciate. Every few months you're letting us drive through with you. Tell people again generally where we're going to be going today, what we're going to see.
So we're going to drive down Riverside Drive, kind of show everyone kind of all the public utility work the city's doing. There's a lot of new underground utility work, still a lot of dirt work. I mean, and the dirt work, you know, people think, oh, well, it's going to be done in a couple of months. Well, it's going to take, you know, almost a year. And we'll be, I mean, almost every time you come out, you're going to be looking at dirt and dirt moving.
Right.
And that's primarily because when you think of a park, you know, there's nothing but dirt, and then you know, see all the plantings and the grass on top. So a lot of dirt work.
Yeah, when you say dirt work, you mean kind of like designing the
shaping of the topography, and that stuff, that's kind of the fine detail work. That's kind of at the end of the dirt work. What the work's going on now is underground utility work, and then things that are major earth movement, you know, major earth movement pieces. So the city's been real busy here on the left. You can see they're putting in another stormwater box. You can see it right here. It's about almost 22 feet tall, and we've got probably about a dozen of them that go along the edge of Riverside Drive on the west side. And so all of those are being put in, and they're all strategically located in places that aren't going to intersect with the park or any of the features of the park. So it's all been coordinated and planned. I mean, we've been working with the city for a couple of years on all of this coordination.
And just again, so people are clear, we're going south to north up Riverside, right?
Right, we're going south to north. We come in our main gate, so all of our construction traffic comes in off of Riverside Drive on the south end. We don't have any construction traffic that comes in anywhere else on the site. And so you'll notice Riverside Drive is really clean. Remember, every time you've been out here, it looked like a dirt road. Well, today, the Federal Highway Administration the city is hosting them into Tulsa, and they're going to be on site inspecting the street, because if you remember, the city received a Tiger grant to help pay for the road. And so the Federal Highway Administration is coming to town to kind of look, and then the contractor, which they select, the city did a public bid and selected Becco Construction, and Becco's going to start construction in the first part of November. So a lot of activity on the road. But and then continuing on the left, this is a huge hole that was built. You can see this mountain of dirt, and this is where the intersection of the stormwater, which comes across from the neighborhood back here, the Travis Heights neighborhood, Maple Ridge, comes across here by 31st Street and goes out, and then intersecting it is the sanitary line. So the new sanitary line, and you can see these pipes that are all stacked up here. Those are the sanitary line that runs across there. So,
and that's one of those projects, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the city took advantage of what you guys are doing here to do that work to help benefit.
That's right.
The community east of here.
Is right. It had been planned. You know, we have a huge stormwater plan in the city of Tulsa. These stormwater projects have been planned for 20 some odd years. It's just the city realized, hey, we've got to get all this stuff done. We can't afford to tear up a park. So so they wanted to get it done. So they advanced all those projects early. But yeah, they drain all the neighborhoods that are basically to the east of the project, and really all the way into the community. As the water flows down towards the river, this will just help evacuate the water out of the city faster.
Okay, let me ask you, and we'll see this as we come along. But since we last spoke a couple months ago, what are the major differences or changes or developments we're going to see on this trip?
Well, I mean, one of the largest parts of work right now is all the in-river work. There's just a lot of in-river work going on. We had a lot of rain earlier in the weekend, so the amount of water has really increased. We've completed all the demolition of the pedestrian bridge. We've taken, since you've been here, there's been a lot more excavation of the Blair Pond, and our overflow pipe that empties into the Arkansas River has been completed, and you'll be able to see it here to the right. So that goes underneath Riverside Drive here, and you can kind of see this has all changed since you were here last time.
Yeah, see, this over here is pretty interesting.
Isn't that
so that's where the pedestrian bridge used to be.
That's where the pedestrian bridge used to be, and you can see, like, it. I mean, it's just blocked off now, and then you can see this is a
dirt
sanitary
underneath where water used to flow under there. And there's trucks.
Trucks, and all that stuff is the in-river work that's going on, and we'll drive out there and I'll show that to you. But I mean, this is all just completely changed. But the underground water drain that drains Blair Pond goes out to the river is being completed, and then pretty much, you know, we've taken out all of the zinc turn off and turn around. The bathroom that was there, I think that was all there the last time so noticed all the stuff on this side has been cleaned off.
Yeah, on the west side.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we received our 404 permit from the U.S. Corps of Engineers.
Now that's a technical term. Tell people what a 404.
It's basically allowing the permission to be able to work in the river.
Okay.
So it's the process of being able to go in the river. The U.S. government, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers controls that. And you know, if you can just see out, this is the beginning of what a bump out is going to look like. You can see all this has been built out into the Arkansas River.
Right.
And we have a diversion dam that's up on the north end of the project, and it's a rock cofferdam that diverts the water over to the west side so that we can work in the river.
Right.
And so that's what you're seeing all in this area. And you can see, you know, and then we're excavating all of the rock and silt and sand. We have 250,000 cubic yards of material north of the dam that we can excavate and be used to build the bump out. Okay. So we're just, all we're doing is just pulling out all of that debris and all that material and building it up. You know, a lot of people don't know that if you walk across the dam and you were to step off to the right, to the north side of the dam, it's silted in. Yeah. So there's just silt and sand all the way up to the edges of it. So part of this project, by building these bump outs, we're actually going to clean out that lake. So we're actually going to add
some of that?
Most all of it, yeah, really? Will come from that. So
let me ask you this before we go any further. So you're using the term bump out, but what for people who come visit the park in a few years? What are they going to see here?
This is going to be the part when you come over the land bridge. This is the land extension that moves out into the Arkansas River that allows people to kind of get down close to the water's edge. Right. So it you know, the edge of the water that we've always known has been steep and rocky. Right. You know, and there's not really accessibility down. Right. Well, with this land bridge, when you come down over the top of it, those lower trails are really actually going to be, you know, within 10 feet of the water. Right. So you're going to feel like you're right on the river's edge.
Yeah, it won't be the steep incline you have now.
Yeah, you'll still have a rocky abutment, you know, and armoring that protects that from getting raked off and into the river. But yeah, it'll be a lot more gradual slope down to the edge.
And is there a reason this is being done in this order? I mean, you're doing this work now versus something.
Well, we have, so right now we're in the process of staging the construction for the land bridges. So, and those land bridges, we're going to start drilling the piers here in the first part of November. And we have to build those piers all the way down to bedrock. And if you look at the pictures of the land bridge, you know, the land bridges have piers on the west side of Riverside, the middle of Riverside, and the east of Riverside. So there's 3 sets of piers for 2 land bridges. So, we have a giant machine. It's an oscillator that's going to come and it'll crank those casings down in to the soil, and those will all start here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So pretty quickly. And then those land bridges are what that's what the build-up.
What they are.
So the land bridges are the ability for you to get from the east side of Riverside Drive to the west side of Riverside Drive and over the road. And you know, when you think of a land bridge, everyone thinks you go up and over, but no. What it really is, it has dirt. And then it has grass and trees on the top of it. It's really more like a conservation bridge that they use to move wildlife across. Well, that's what we're using here to connect River Park's riverfront property to the Gathering Place property on the east side of Riverside Drive.
Right. You've always said it's meant to be like a seamless transition from the park over to the west side.
That's exactly right. Okay. So that's what these land bridges are, and they're really land bridges do. They make that connection, but these bump outs actually allow there to be a landing spot on the other side. Because remember, right now River Park is really narrow from about 27th all the way down to 34th. It doesn't have a lot of width. Right. So in order to get that width, we had to get permission from the Corps, which is what the 404 does, to allow us to move out into the river. And there's just about almost 9 acres of additional land. Really? So they're not small bump outs, they're pretty large. Wow. In fact, the Quick Trip Lakeview Lawn, which we're looking at right here, this will be, it'll have video, sound, and power to have small concerts. And you can have about almost 2,000 people out on this bump out. So imagine sitting here on 4th of July and kind of looking up the river, and you really have a front row seat to the fireworks.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So a lot of work in the river. I'll take you down.
Quick Trip drinks on the Quick Trip lawn, do you know? Has that been determined yet?
No, those details haven't been known, but yeah. it definitely can. Definitely something we're going to be talking about. This is already the riprap rock that's coming.
Right.
So we actually went to the quarry last week, MBVA and MSME,
we're talking about on the right here?
our architect. Yeah, and we went out to the quarry and inspected this rock and approved the rock and the color and the sizes. And MBVA was real particular about the size of boulders, the varying sizes, and the color contrast and what seams it comes out of. And Sherwood Construction, John Curtis, the president, we met him out at the quarry and took a look at all this rock last week. And so they're going to start delivering it because they're already, as you saw, they're already starting to build out that bump out right now.
Well,
so
you used the term, what, riff-raff?
Riprap.
Riprap, not riff-raff. Put that in English. What is that?
So this will be the rock that you see. There's a lot of rock underneath the bump out, huge boulders that anchor that bump out in. This is actually the riprap rock that goes along the edges of the shoreline. Okay. So this is what you see, and it'll come all the way up to that lower trail's edge.
Okay. And to the left here, you mentioned this earlier, you guys have built, not a dam, but a coffer dam?
It's what's called a coffer dam, and it's built out of rock, and what it does is it diverts the water so that we can do the work along this side of the bank. So it's diverting the water to the west side so that it goes down and around.
And that's just about on the north end of your property?
It's almost on the very edge of the north end. If you look, it's about where 27th Street would be if it came through.
Okay. The work you mentioned for the city, because this seems to be a relatively untouched road, they're going to be getting into this too, or is this not?
The city?
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned earlier a city, the project there, the work they're doing on Riverside Drive. Is that all happening in a relatively short time?
Yeah, so it has to be done. A lot of the underground utility work that's on the road's edge will be wrapping up in early spring. Okay. So when Riverside Drive reconstruction begins in November, they'll be starting down on the north end at 24th and working south. So yeah, I mean, when I say coordinated, it's kind of what I call, what a lot of people would call just in time, right. Because we're on a pretty compressed schedule, and you're dealing with a lot of different contractors working for different groups. All the city work, all those contractors report to the city, and then you have our contractors and subcontractors who report to the foundation, and so all of that is being coordinated, and we have weekly calls every Tuesday. Yeah, and you reported on that.
So the utility work in and around here, the hope is to get, the underground, the big underground is in the spring. You hope to have that done, and then the road work itself, which people who drive Riverside Drive, that's expected to begin middle or late next year. The actual work on the road itself is actually going to start in November. So this November? You said November. I want to be sure.
Yeah, this November.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, they awarded it about a month ago.
Yeah, I know they had.
And the highway administration's coming out today to do the primary inspection.
I just want to be sure. Okay.
They come and then they'll look at, they make sure you have all your permits. They make sure, and we have everything in order for the project. Right. The city has all of their permits, so everything is all documented and signed and certified. Right. And they come out. I think it's more or less, when you have federal money involved, they want to make sure that you're doing the project the way you said you would, and that everything is being coordinated just the way it should be. Right. And that's why they're coming to visit.
Now we're on the northern edge of the property, and we're heading east. Excuse me. And that stand of trees remains.
Well, we can't. Remember, we used to drive over here, and the reason we can't drive that way right now, and I'll show you in a minute, is the city is putting in the new water line. Okay. It runs around the outside edges of our project, and this is where all of the fire hydrants will be.
Yeah. So Jeff, we're standing on a huge mound of dirt on the north end of the property. We're looking. My directions aren't great, but looking west and north, right?
That's
okay.
Right.
So tell people what they're seeing.
So right over here this is where 27th Street would come through if it came through from Maple Ridge. This will be the main park entrance. Okay. So there'll be a new stoplight there on Riverside Drive, and this will be where all the cars will come onto and off of the Gathering Place park site. So all of the parking's around the perimeter, and this is the main entrance and exit that you'll see.
Okay, so the people coming in from the north will turn east and hug the north
That's
boundary
right.
and go around?
Then go around. There's 364 parking spaces that wrap the perimeter of the site. So that's the entrance into that parking area.
Okay.
And then as you kind of move here, where we're standing right here,
right.
So we're kind of between the parking area and the pond. You can see the pond has kind of been dug out in this area. They've done almost all the digging on the far south end, but all of this area is the wetland gardens.
Okay.
So Charlie and Peggy Stevenson Wetland Gardens and Peggy's Pond, which is the name of the pond. We've been calling it the Blair Pond,
right.
But Charlie is honoring his wife with his gift, and so it'll be known as Peggy's Pond. But we're on the wetland garden, and this is the area where we pump the water out of the Peggy's Pond. It comes up and then runs through some natural areas that then clean and purify the water, and then it drains back into the pond. So this wetland garden area is actually pretty neat. Place to it have a lot of little paths that go through it. It'll be a really nice place. And then of course you have the 2¼ acre pond, Peggy's Pond. You can see the end of it here. This is the north side of it. And then if you look way down on the other side, we've done all the excavating.
There's a blue, looks like a dumpster.
Yeah.
What's that going to be down there?
So that's the dumpster actually, just beyond the dumpster will be the One Oak Boathouse. And in fact, we've got kind of roughed in pad site for where the boathouse will be. And then we've excavated pretty much all the pond area down there, and we've got a stovepipe that comes up, and that's actually the drain that drains any excess water that comes into the pond out into the Arkansas River. And then the subcontractor for Sherwood is building the secant wall. Okay. And if you notice that grove of trees that's there to the left, that wall is going to hold up all of the dirt that runs around those trees. And then right where those trees are, all the way back across these groves of trees over to about here, that's the 5-acre Chapman Adventures playground. So all through the trees is all the playground equipment and such. And then
what's this big? Maybe you mentioned it already. What's that big hole in the ground right there? It seems to be.
That's the south end of the Peggy's Pond. That's that's actually the south end. And then the boathouse sits just to the right of that big hole. And I'll show you the pad site that's been built out. Okay. That's the actual south end of the pond where there'll be a floating dock and you'll pull your boats off and
so when we come here 2 years from now, obviously all this will be green, right?
Yes.
A lot of trees.
Tons of trees.
Tons of trees.
I mean, we're going to be planting 6,000 roughly more trees on the site. So there's a lot more trees. We'll have a huge Quick Trip Great Lawn. We'll sit right here. You'll see 2 large land bridges on each side of that pedestrian bridge.
Right.
This entire view will be totally different.
Right. And the buildings you talked about, will they be very pronounced or will they be hidden among trees? Will they a little of both? I mean, the structures themselves.
I think in the beginning, in the beginning of the park, when the park is constructed and the trees are new, and we're putting in some really large trees, so a lot of large trees and some small trees. But when you look at this, you'll see the buildings from here. But as time moves on and the trees grow up and the lushness of all the landscaping starts to fall in, it'll fill a lot of that in, and those buildings will be less seen throughout the park as they will initially on the day we open.
Well, and I ask this every time we're out here: have the plans changed at all about what people could expect from the park, what was presented to them when it was?
In fact, really, the things that have happened are all the detailed design. We had the drawings and illustrations, but now things are coming into sharper focus on exactly what the facade of the buildings will look like, what the roof structure will look like, how they interact with the landscaping. All of that's been enhanced and really fine-tuned. And I'll, like for instance, like the Four Seasons Garden and the Sky Garden that's on the South Land Bridge, those have gone through some rapid redesign. And the new gardens and the new Four Seasons, the enhancements that have been made since the original illustrations, the gardens are so much prettier and nicer and more open and have a lot more flowering plants. So there's just a lot of adds that have happened with that detailed design work that's happened that I think people are really going to be blown away. The illustrations, when I look at them and then I look at the drawings, I think to myself, wow, it's just going to blow people away about how neat it is.
Okay. Jeff, now, since the last time we talked, your work schedule, same old, coming out here a couple times?
Yep. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out a couple times a week.
I'm sorry, it's a week,
Yeah, a couple times a week. And then anytime there's something to see, if they need a question or most of the time to do a lot of stuff by conference call.
Right,
you know, because our architects are in New York and building architects are in Atlanta. So,
how often do the architects come out here, or you know, the designer, the folks in New York?
You know, right now there's not a lot of detail work.
Right,
it's all the base work, so not very frequently. But as we start to get into the fine detail of like the sculpting of the soil and the site, they'll be out a lot more, and especially with all the finished, the grasses and the trees and such, they'll be out a lot more then.
Are we driving out to somewhere?
Yeah, we're gonna drive out. The ramp is right over here.
Okay. Hey, I wanted to mention, because since last time we spoke, this is a project obviously that the Kaiser Foundation is behind, but I believe in the last couple months since we talked, you've received a donation or 2 more, maybe it's just 1, I don't know.
Yeah, Cimarex made a $5 million commitment to help underwrite the programming for the park, and we're super excited. You know, the programming is going to be the life of the park.
Yeah.
You know, the park will be beautiful. We'll get national acclaim, if not international acclaim. But what the foundation's most excited about really is the programming and what it can mean for our kids and for our citizens of our community.
Right.
You know, a lot of different things. There'll be yearly events and festivals, but then there'll also be a lot of programs that are education focused, like reading and that sort of thing. So we're
driving right under the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, we're actually in the river.
Yeah.
We're going to drive over the dam. That we've built a road that goes up and over the dam, so we can transverse from the north to south side. The first thing you'll see here on the right, where we've cut out the concrete right there, that's the outflow for the Blair Pond.
Okay.
So when the land extension comes, the land extension will be all the way out to this pier right here. This is where the thin part between the 2 bump outs is. And then as you go over to the north bump out, the bump out actually comes out, and you can see the outline of it. We could see it when we were up above. But this is all this north bump out. So here's the dam.
This will all be gone.
We're driving. Yeah, that'll all be underneath the north bump out. All of this will be underneath the bump out. And we're driving right now. That's the dam. We just, if you look right here to the back, we just went over it. So this is the bump out, and we're starting to build the edges of the bump out. You can kind of see it.
So this will go out this far?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, 200 and...
I was going to say, roughly, was it 230?
I think it's 225, 230, something like that, yeah. So you can see, and then right now what they're doing over here on the left-hand side is they're starting the dredging process, and then they're filling those dump trucks up and bringing them over, and you can see them stacking all of the dirt.
Yeah, you talked about this earlier. So the dirt and sand that's being used to create this bump out, most of it, or a lot of it's coming from the river itself?
All of it. All of it, yeah. The only thing that's being imported in are the rocks, because we don't have enough large boulders and rocks.
Right.
And so that's being brought in from outside.
Now, is this a particularly challenging piece of construction?
You know, it looks really easy, but there's a lot of engineering to it. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has standards on land extensions and shoreline fortification and armoring. And, you know, because you have a powerful river here, and so you have to make sure that this is a very protected land extension. Because whenever, like when the water's really full and it's moving really fast, you don't want pieces of this to rake into the river itself and be washed down. So you really have to, there's a lot of things you have to do to armor this thing and get it secured so that it'll be here forever.
That's amazing.
So I think this is kind of the most exciting thing that's going on the site right now. I mean,
and how many
see all these tractors right in the middle. Well, so there's 250,000 cubic yards of material on the north side of the dam, and then 250,000 cubic yards on the south side of the dam that we can excavate per year. So this is an annual, and so all of that material that's being dredged and pulled up, and you can see it all stacked up over there on the west side. All that's being brought over here to the east side to build this bump out.
But the bump out, so people, correct me if I'm wrong, there'll be one on the north side of
the pedestrian bridge and the dam, and one on the south side. And then in between, there's an area that's filled in too, that moves it out even the middle of it. So really, when you come across that land bridge, and when you're walking down the main bike path southward, you know, where the city's parking lot used to be, that'll feel really wide, because that south bump out kind of opens up that narrow area between Riverside. So that'll seem a lot wider and a lot larger. It'll make the park seem a lot bigger.
Wow, it'd be quite a view if you're out here and you could look.
Yeah, you can see right up the city. I mean, you can see the skyline. You can see, it feels like look, I mean, when you get down into the water's edge area, when you're down on this lower area, you'll have it'll really be, the accessibility to the water's edge that we've talked about for years.
Right.
This is going to deliver that. I mean, the county's involvement at getting this bump out built and this bump out built really is going to allow people to get down to the water's edge.
Now, how about your job? Is it any less stressful than it was 2 months ago? Or as this thing proceeds, is it?
Yeah, I keep telling my wife that the worst is behind me, and that things should start to smooth out. But there's a lot of things that happen. Things pop up. We've had a lot of the paddlefish along the south side of the dam that the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife's been working on, and we've interfaced with them. Matt Myers had numerous meetings with them, and so there's little things that pop up that you don't anticipate, but it's going pretty smoothly. And to me, it's the most exciting part because for 7 years we've been thinking about and talking about and designing and pushing ideas around on paper, and now you can start to actually see the rubber hit the road. You're seeing all those years of planning now coming to fruition in the development.
Well, you
can see all that rock down there that's all piled up. All that's going to be brought over.
Oh, wow.
So all this stuff, I mean, you can see. I mean, all of it is getting staged to build. And this is the south bump out location right in here. So that south bump out's going to take this.
Okay, so we're heading south.
Mm-hmm.
I ask you this every time, but I think most people who aren't lucky enough to come down and look at this, your boss, Mr. Kaiser.
Yes.
Has he been down here? Does he get to see this very often? How much does he keep up with the project?
He keeps up with the project daily and weekly.
Oh, yeah.
So he doesn't come to the site. We have a lot of reports and pictures, and I do a lot of reporting back to our board and to George. And George just has a huge heart for the project and what it's really going to do for our community, and he stays really dialed in.
So over the winter, because we're coming to the end of our little tour, we're going south. We're going south
on Riverside. So the stormwater project's going on both sides of the road here. And
Jeff, one thing we didn't mention. 2 more questions for you. Your staging area, is that progressing? And you were going to have which is just south of 31st, right? Staging. Mm-hmm. Is that progressing? And are you still going to have? I can't remember what you described it as. Maybe we can buzz through real quick. I don't know if you can talk. What's going to go on there? You remind people.
So our staging area, we built this wall right here. You can see this rebar. Right. That's we're building a wall that we can put all the stone on and start doing some mock-ups of what the stone walls are going to look like. And then we'll have some wildflower gardens that we're going to be planting and watching grow, and that'll all be on this site. And then all of our dirt and soil amendment process will all be on this part of the site as well. So all that stuff, I mean, we're in the process, and we store a lot of logs. There's a group of logs, and we've taken some of them away. But, and then we've got some that are drying here that are for the playground area. So all that is kind of in this, where the Sundance Apartments used to be. And that'll be the future home for the Tulsa Children's Museum.
Oh, okay, so that's right. This property right here.
That's this property right here. And so it'll sit, museum will sit, near the banks of the Crow Creek area, and then there'll be some parking area in here. So that hasn't been designed yet, but it's been, kind of creatively laid out a little bit on some early design work. But yeah, it'll be the home of the museum.
Do you? I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a big deal that was announced since we last talked. Mm-hmm. Last thing, just for the next winter time's coming. What's going to be the focus of the work at the river over there?
So what you're going to see over the next 60 to 90 days, you'll see the land bridges start to take shape. You'll actually see the piling and pier locations. And so when we come back out, you'll have a lot of that being done. The on-site work, as far as the pond excavation and the building pads, there'll be probably concrete footings and concrete, at least beginning the foundations for the buildings. That'll all be started. And then a lot of, I mean, over the next 3 to 6 months, the site will start to kind of take shape with all of the change in kind of the topography of the site.
Right.
So that'll be a lot of things that'll change. Kelco, our landscape contractor, will be on site. They'll be beginning to mix horticultural soil. So you'll see that operation. So, you know, from this point on, every time you come out to the site, there'll be more people and more operations going on, getting the project built.
And you mentioned they're probably a little harder to get because they'll be literally working on Riverside.
They will.
Drive, right? The road itself.
The road. So, in 3 months, they probably won't be to our site yet. But
they won't. Okay.
Probably not. But probably next spring and summer for sure.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of coordination, and there's a lot of things we're going to do by leaving gaps in the road so that the big dump trucks can go through there, so we don't, you know, mess up the concrete, because we're not going to put heavy construction traffic on the road after it's built. So again, a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
Then probably in about 6 to 9 months, you're going to see the land bridges start to take shape. All the precast concrete tunnel components will start being built and laid in with big, large cranes. So, you know, it just starts getting busy from there.
Well, we appreciate your time again.
Absolutely.